Right now, we invite the next speaker, our partner from France, Brigitte Taquin, Theosophical Society of France, Blavatsky Lodge, France, Paris.
Brigitte Taquin родилась в Париже, профессиональный переводчик английского, немецкого, французского языков. Член
Born in Paris, professional translator and interpreter English, French, German, and has worked for many years as organizer of Theosophical seminars, member of Theosophical Society from the 80s. In 1994, she started being the head of Blavatsky Lodge, and from then, every month she reads public lectures and translates books, as well as articles, takes part in research groups around the world, including online, Brigitte Taquin, the Theosophical Society of France, Blavatsky Lodge, Psychology of Compassion.
Good evening, everybody, all members of this Congress in the honor of Helena Petrovna Blavatsky. So, the psychology of compassion. I read one day that the Dalai Lama had said, be selfish, love each other. According to Tibetan Buddhism, believing in the existence of a separate entity, a self, an ego, which has to protect itself against outward aggression, is a basis for delusion. Buddhism considers the mind as an ever-changing flow of experiences, an unending sequence of snapshots. We never bathe in the same river. The ego is an illusion in the same way. Helena Blavatsky considers that the feeling of separativity is an heresy, which is at the root of all sorts of evil. On the contrary, in our modern society, we can observe a trend aiming at developing the sense of personality, the mind, considered as a static entity located in the brain. For modern science, consciousness is generally understood as a product of cerebral activity. The notion of ego is reified. The ego is a kind of static, consistent entity. People tend to practice mindfulness meditation in order to obtain a kind of well-being, to eliminate all kinds of stress, and even to increase the efficiency, the capacities of our mind. Even in the frame of work, employers appreciate the benefits deriving from meditation at work. People can better concentrate on their jobs, their abilities increase, they become more efficient, and business improves. In the East, many cultures believe the mind is located in the heart. Sayings such as, listen to your heart, may confirm this. Our heart seems to be the place of a more compassion-oriented aspect of our consciousness, deeper than the cerebral energy located around the brain. Dzogchen tradition, for example, teaches that primordial jnana, knowing or knowledge, has three aspects: emptiness, spontaneous presence, and responsive compassion. According to Theosophy, The mind, manas, is our fifth principle, and it corresponds to the fifth element, ether, space. In our fourth round, mankind as a whole has reached the stage of what is called the fifth root race, and this since about 1 million years. We have even reached the second half of this fifth root race, its sixth subrace, as HPB states in her 5 messages, where she addresses students of theosophy as the forerunners of the sixth subrace of the fifth race. This fifth element, ether, is described as follows already in the poem of the Secret Doctrine. Quote, for clearer understanding on the part of a general reader, it must be stated that occult science recognizes 7 cosmical elements, 4 entirely physical, and the 5th, ether, semi-material, as it will become visible in the air towards the end of our 4th round, to reign supreme over the others during the whole of the 5th round. The remaining 2 elements are as yet absolutely beyond the range of human perception. These latter will, however, appear as presentiments during the 6th and 7th races of this 4th round, and will become known in the 6th and 7th rounds, respectively. Unquote. Thus, we see that ether, the 5th element corresponding to our 5th principle, the mind, manas, is semi-material, thus semi-spiritual. Manas is bipolar. It has the faculty to consider both the material and the spiritual planes. Furthermore, the elements are depicted as unceasingly evolving. In the Secret Doctrine, we find, quote, the elements, whether simple or compound, could not have remained the same since the commencement of the evolution of our chain. Everything in the universe progresses steadily in the great cycle, while incessantly going up and down in the smaller cycles. Nature is never stationary during Manvantara, as it is ever becoming, not simply being. And mineral, vegetable, and human life are always adapting their organism to the then reigning elements. And therefore, those elements were then fitted for them as they are now for the life of present humanity. It will only be in the next or 5th round that the 5th element, ether, the gross body of Akasha, if it can be called even that, will, by becoming a familiar fact of nature to all men, as air is familiar to us now, cease to be, as at present, hypothetical and also an agent for so many things. And only during that 5th round will those higher senses, the growth and development of which Akasha subserves, be susceptible of a complete expansion. As already indicated, a partial familiarity with a characteristic of matter, permeability, which should be developed concurrently with a 6th sense, may be expected to develop at the proper period in this 4th round. but with the next element added to our resources in the next round, we will become so, permeability will become so manifest a characteristic of matter that the densest forms of this will seem to man's perceptions as obstructive to him as a thick fog, and no more, unquote. Lao Tse, Confucius, Plato are described as fifth rounders by the masters of wisdom. Buddha is evoked as sixth rounder in the Mahatma letters to A.P. Sinnett. A master said, no, we are not in the fifth round, but fifth round men have been coming in for the last few thousand years, unquote. In the secret doctrine, we find, quote, but it is simply this. Every round brings about a new development and even an entire change in the mental, psychic, spiritual, and physical constitution of man. All these principles evolving on an ever ascending scale. Thence, it follows that those persons who, like Confucius or Plato, belonged psychically, mentally, and spiritually to the higher planes of evolution, where in our fourth round, as the average man will be in the fifth round, whose mankind is destined to find itself on the scale of evolution immensely higher than is our present humanity. Similarly, Gautama Buddha, wisdom incarnate, was still higher and greater than all the men we have mentioned, who are called fifth rounders, while Buddha and Sankaracharya are termed sixth rounders, allegorically. Thence again the concealed wisdom of a remark pronounced at the time evasive, that a few drops of rain do not make the monsoon, though they presage it, unquote. In another passage, we find, quote, matter has extension, color, motion, molecular motion, taste, and smell corresponding to the existing senses of man. And by the time that it fully develops, the next characteristic, let us call it for the moment permeability, this will correspond to the next sixth sense of man. Let us call it normal clairvoyance, corresponding to a sixth characteristic of matter. The sixth plane of consciousness, the plane of Buddhi, is defined as follows in the collected writings. Buddhi is the sense of being one with the universe, the impossibility to imagine oneself apart from it. Buddhi is a feeling within, absolutely inexpressible in words. This is the state of the Buddhas, the Bodhisattvas, who are said to emanate from the seven Dhyani Buddhas, from their abstract meditation. This sense of unity reminds us of this passage of the voice of the silence. Can you destroy divine compassion? Compassion is no attribute, It is the law of laws, eternal harmony, alias self, the shoreless, universal essence, the light of everlasting right and fitness of all things, the law of love eternal. Now, bend thy head and listen well, O Bodhisattva. Compassion speaks and says, can there be bliss when all that lives must suffer? Shalt you be saved and hear the whole world cry? Unquote. So we are exhorted to become Nirmanakayas, those beings who, having reached the stage of perfect bliss of nirvana, renounce it through compassion, through permeability to mankind's suffering, in order to remain able to lend a helping hand to lift the heavy karma of the world, as a master said once. Thank you for your attention.
Дорогая Бриджит, большое спасибо от всех нас
Thank you
за
so much, dear
такое
Brigitte,
исследование. И,
for such a
наверное,
piece of
самый
research.
тяжелый
Probably it
вопрос
was
взаимосострадания.
the most complicated issue, the issue of compassionate law, because there is no law for that, no law for harmony. And research of works by Madame Blavatsky, it's not in vain said that Blavatsky only knew. Thank you so much.
Thank you
For
so much.
many years, you've been in this line, and you tell your students a lot about the sacred doctrine. I know how deeply you study it. It so rarely happens. And thank you for having this fundamental work as the basis for your research. Thank you so much, dear Brigitte.
Thank you to all.